What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, Cam ATL, and welcome back to another MLB High Five video with your boy. I know I haven't been the most consistent in the world, but since the beginning of the season, we have had a ton of early slates that I've had to study the moment I wake up. So I have not had much time on top of my having my child, my son here, and having all these early slates for MLB in the beginning of the season. I have not had much time. Today, the early slate is super small, so I won't be providing it at greenlightdfs.com. But the Greenlight Optimizer does have the ability to run some lines for the early slate. We do have our projections in for the early slate, so anybody who wants to play the early 3 game slate, you can on the Greenlight Optimizer. Go ahead and come on over and create you something. As you can see, I've got the main slate for the Greenlight Optimizer pulled up. Very excited about this slate, man. We've been doing good in MLB. Last night was a tough one, but outside of that, so far early on in the season, we're getting right back to where we were doing last year, man. We're having a solid season so far. So, and as things get more regular, these players get warmed up. These players get into the swing of things. Things get even better for MLB. So, you got to weather the storm a little bit with those downtimes in the beginning of the season, but outside of that, things should get real smooth here in a minute. We got a long season ahead of us, man, so I'm excited. All right. Also, the player tools, NBA player tool. If you're playing Prize Picks or doing sports betting in any way, and you're doing player props, NBA player prop tool is on the site. You get that with access to NBA. MLB player prop tool. We now have an MLB player prop tool where you can find the best props for the pitching strikeouts. You can find the best props for the total bases for the hitters, all that type of stuff. So we've got some amazing content at greenlightdfs.com, and we're just adding to it. I really want to. I'm working with a developer now. I'm trying to develop a home run prediction tool where everybody who wants to kind of have fun with it and bet on home run predictions can also use that in their DFS builds as well. Be like, okay, home run prop tool says that this guy has the best chances of a home run. I'm going to choose him over this other guy who's not as loved. You know what I mean? That type of thing. It'll help out in DFS as well. Player prop tool has also helped me make decisions in DFS already when it comes to NBA, MLB. It definitely gives you a good edge on which way to lean. You know what I mean? You can see where Vegas is because it updates every 2 minutes. So you can see where Vegas is as of the immediate, as of right then, where the money's going. You can see how they have done in this situation. The total bases and stuff for MLB is really, really cool. The hit section of that, you could bet on the hits, all types of stuff. There's just a lot going on at Greenlight DFS, y'all. All right. Anyways, let's get into this high five. I'm not going to keep up too much of your time. Let's go ahead and get straight. I already took up 2 minutes and 42 seconds. I'm not going to take up too much more. All right. Thank you guys for joining me as always. Drop that like down below. Comment anything in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now let's get this money. Starting off at pitchers for this slate. Let's see what we got here. So, first and foremost, I haven't had much of it. Now, here's the deal. If this Dodger Minnesota game was going to go as planned, I would really like him. I'm worried about weather here. It's looking like around the mid innings we could really have some weather issues, and this really might not be something you want to take too much of a risk in. Andrew Heaney has solid K rate. He's facing a solid offense in Minnesota. Buxton has been on fire this year, but Andrew Heaney does have a solid K rate. He would be a guy that I would be interested in, but the weather kind of pulls me off of that. Dakota Hudson's the first pitcher I want to talk about. He's at home in St. Louis going against Kansas City. Kansas City's offense is not too bad. They've got that new young guy who came in and he's been doing really well. What was his name? Bobby Witt Jr. Witt has been doing solid. But at the end of the day, Hudson is a solid, consistent option here at 6'3". He feels like a very, very solid piece here. He doesn't have a huge K rate, but he doesn't allow a ton of damage. So plain and simple at 6'3", we just want a guy who's just not going to give up a ton of damage here at home in St. Louis. St. Louis's offense has been fire so far. Nolan Arenado starting out hot. Goldschmidt starting out hot. These dudes are starting out hot. So St. Louis's offense has looked really, really good. Should give him some run support. Really, really like this spot for Dakota Hudson. Next up, like I said, I had some, I considered Andrew Heaney a little bit. But I'm going to settle on going ahead and just spending up on you, Darvish. Solid K matchup here in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. The wind is supposed to be blowing out, but as we know in San Francisco, that ballpark, the way it's built, the wind doesn't really affect things too much. So here's the deal with you, Darvish. All right. Yu Darvish has the best K rate on the slate, 26% versus lefties, 34% versus righties. On top of that, facing a San Francisco lineup that strikes out almost 25% of the time to righties. At the end of the day, this is a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Yu Darvish is a very solid, consistent pitcher, and on a slate where we don't have great pitching, nobody really sticks out. Outside of Yu Darvish, you could maybe consider Alex Cobb. Alex Cobb has an okay K rate. I mean, but he's at home in the same type of situation in a pitcher friendly ballpark. San Diego's offense is just scarier to me than San Francisco's. I'd rather just spend up here, and I haven't had too much of a problem in my early builds getting Yu Darvish in. So I'm going to go ahead and go Yu Darvish. If you want to spend down at both pitchers, the guys that I lean on this slate is probably Alex Cobb and Dakota Hudson. Those are probably my two main guys. And if for some reason the weather kind of looks like it shifts, because weather can change by the end of the day. If the weather seems like it's going to shift and Andrew Heaney is in play, then he is back in play for me. He's the second highest projected pitcher on the slate. But it is a whack slate for pitching, so Yu Darvish is above the else when it comes to K rates today. He's the guy that I'm siding with Dakota Hudson. All right, let's talk hitters now, baby. At first base, did us well yesterday, and going right back to it, CJ Cron. Now, the roof was open yesterday in Texas, and it was fairly warm here in Texas. I live not too far from the stadium, so I'm kind of sort of in the same kind of, so I can pretty much step outside and kind of see what the weather's going to be like at the stadium if the roof is open. Now, tonight we're expected to get some bad thunderstorms, so I'm expecting the roof to stay closed tonight. We're expected to have a good amount of rain, good amount of thunderstorms. So the roof's going to stay closed. So that's going to suppress it a little bit. It's not going to be as hitter friendly as it was yesterday. But CJ Cron at the end of the day here, going against a lefty, Cron is a beast versus lefties, plain and simple. Last two games he's been hot, 21 and 24. Now he gets to go against Perez, who he has a 307 ISO and a 428 WOBA versus lefties, a 321 batting average versus lefties. He smashes lefties. He's only 4-3. He's a guy that really is at the top of my list of guys that I'm really interested in today. Next up, I gotta put an Atlanta Brave in here. Come on now. Ozzie Albies versus lefties. You guys know the drill. When Ozzie Albies plays the lefties, you just play him. Plain and simple. I mean, he hasn't done anything spectacular so far this year. 3-4-4, 4-7. Nothing crazy, but we're at the beginning of the year. Let guys warm up. Now, here's the thing. Albies, throughout his career against Corbin, has a 650 ISO and a 450 average. He's hitting a 450 batting average versus Corbin. So not only does he have a good history versus Corbin, he smashes Corbin. But Albies versus lefties is elite. 254 ISO, 409 WOBA, 343 average. Like, he smashes lefties. So Ozzie Albies under 5K, I'm surprised. I thought he was going to be 5K or more. I guess he hasn't done a ton to merit over 5K, but I mean, this is probably a spot where he really goes off here. I really like this spot for him. Last but not least, Chris Bryant versus lefties, y'all. Don't overthink this, all right? Don't overthink it. Chris Bryant versus lefties has always been elite. 267 ISO, 412 WOBA, almost a 300 batting average. He is fantastic versus lefties, and he's only 4-3. He is too cheap. That is the first thing I noticed when I was looking in this slate, is a couple of these Colorado guys versus Perez, the lefty, is too cheap. All right, plain and simple. Especially with the way they hit lefties, like especially Cron and Bryant are really focal points for me at this moment. And Albies, like, I'm really loving the core that we have starting here. So let's review what we got. We've got Dakota Hudson. It's a sorry slate for pitching. Hudson seems like a solid option. Should get some good run support at home in St. Louis. Like Hudson as a solid, safe-ish 6-3 option. Yu Darvish is just head and shoulders above the rest, talent-wise, above the rest of these pitchers on this slate. He's got the good pitcher-friendly ballpark against San Francisco. They strike out almost 25% of the time versus righties. Yu Darvish is in a solid spot here. And at the end of the day, if you don't need to spend down, just don't. Get the pitcher. Don't. The last thing you want in MLB DFS is a huge negative out of a pitcher because you took too much of a risk there. Then you're depending on a hitter hitting like a double dong or something to save you. You know what I mean? You just don't want to deal with that. CJ Cron, smashing lefties. Ozzie Albies, smashing lefties. Chris Bryant smashes lefties. It's just, we're picking on lefties in this high five so far today, and I'm really loving this spot here. All right, I'm really loving this slate for these guys. All right. Thank you guys for joining me as always. Let's get this money. GreenlightDFS.com. Just tools are being added left and right to GreenlightDFS.com. Eventually, the sports betting and prop tools and all that stuff will be on a separate website, and Greenlight DFS will be only daily fantasy sports related. It will have nothing to do with props, prize picks, sports betting, none of that. It will be on another site, but take advantage that right now we're giving all members to GreenlightDFS.com who signs up for the DFS access to the player prop tools and stuff like that. So if you're interested in sports betting, player props, prize picks, all that good stuff, take advantage of the fact you get that with your memberships at GreenlightDFS.com. All right. Thank you guys for joining me as always. Once again, the early slate is already uploaded. My projections are in there, ready to go. Go ahead and have fun with that early slate. I will not be providing for it because it's only 3 games, but definitely that it's slates like that where the optimizer really shines. So have fun, do your thing, get this money. Thank you guys for joining me as always, and I'm out. Peace.